Hi, everybody. It is Friday evening. I'm meteorologist Matt Wentz here with an update for you. We've got a severe thunderstorm watch out until 11 o'clock. That is Central Time, including all of the region. We obviously have some storms in our southern counties. If you live there, you're hearing those at this hour. So we're going to take you through exactly where we're expecting these storms to go, how we're expecting them to behave, and how the rest of the weekend's going to shape out. We'll talk all about that in this edition of Region Weather Live. And welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday to you. Hope you are ready for the weekend. Obviously, we are feeling summer-like outside. The humidity has been laying on thick here over the last really couple days now. It's really ramping up this evening. You can definitely, if you've got the poofy hair, you've got it going on. Want to say hi to Jackie. Hi, Gregory. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Caitlin. And hi, Kim. Thanks for joining us here so far. And Jack is mentioning exactly where we're going to start things off with the storm in Rensselaer right now. We've got some hail with that. So I want to take you to the radars to show you kind of what we've got going on. A new severe thunderstorm watch has been issued. And this will go through 11 o'clock Central Time this evening. We saw it issued back towards areas of central Illinois. Now it's issued for northwest Indiana. And this is in advance of these storms that continue to develop here this evening. You've noticed over the last couple of days, we've had these boundaries. We had the heavy rainfall that moved through last night. On one boundary that moved through, that kind of settled down towards our south as expected. So we got our break today that we talked about. And now everything kind of lifting back towards the north. And that brings us to where we are right now, where we've had a quiet day. We had some sunshine. We've got the heat and humidity around. And now we're dealing with these pop-up storms. So the atmosphere right now is structured in a way that we can get severe weather for sure. We've got the warm temperatures. We've got lots of moisture available, but we can also get brief tornadoes out of this. And that's the reason why I want to do this Region Weather Live tonight, to kind of just let you know exactly what to expect this evening. All of these storms that we have trailing all the way back into central Illinois all pose, it's almost like a mini supercell risk. That's the way the Weather Service put it, and I couldn't describe it anymore, in that they're all little, they're not huge storms. We're not going to get huge, robust tornadic activity out of this, but we have to keep an eye on these because there's some low-level shear. Basically, you have the wind at the surface. When you go outside, the wind hits you in the face in one direction, right? That's out of the southwest. As you go up into the cloud, the wind is more westerly. So as that column of air rises inside the thunderstorm, it starts to turn direction with height. We call that shear, and that can help produce a little bit of that twist that helps to get these thunderstorms rotating. Right now, I don't see any huge rotation out of any of these. I'm keeping a really close eye on that Newton County storm that's now heading into Jasper County. Rensselaer, you're feeling that one. We've got some hail with that as well. But you notice we're not done here. We're dealing with more storms off towards the west. We're starting to see an uptick in lightning with these as well. So there certainly is a strengthening factor that's going to happen over the next couple hours, and that's really going to be my concern. And I'll be keeping a close eye on these throughout the evening. We'll pass along any information as possible. So if you're a regular here, thank you so much for joining us. If you're not, if you're finding us via someone that shared, we do weather for Northwest Indiana, and if you want updates, you need to click follow. And then check your notifications on that as well, because Facebook is not Twitter, all right? So I want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information when you hit refresh on the page, or you get alert every time we post. We don't post that often. I try not to fill up your news feed. I totally get it. So if you want that crucial information, go ahead and give us a follow here on the Region Weather page. So let's dive into it. I want to go full screen so you can see us a little bit better. Really one main cell right now that we've been tracking through Newton County. This is producing heavy rain. We've had a little bit of lightning over the last couple hours. There's not a ton of lightning with this one, but there is some lightning, and that continues to work over Mount Ayr, heading into Rensselaer, just north of town, right along I-65 right now. In terms of velocity, I'm not seeing a whole lot of rotation. This storm here is rotating a little bit, but keep in mind, storms rotate all the time, so that's not a big deal initially. It's just something we're going to need to keep an eye on. As we get back down towards the west, though, we're not done there. There's another storm heading in from Illinois right now. That will pass into the Lake Village area, likely clipping Morocco as well, as that heads up towards Roselawn. Snyder's in there, DeMott eventually. All of this tracking north and east pretty slowly, anywhere from 25 to 35 miles per hour based on the storm. But you can see how they kind of got a little supercellular look to it. They're kind of rounded. You can see a little rotation with them as they move. So they're going to bear watching as we go forward throughout the evening. So what can we expect? I know our northern tier counties right now, Lake Porter, LaPorte counties, Stark County, you are just fine right now. You can probably see the storms down to your south because these are towering 40,000 feet into the atmosphere. But you can probably hear some of the thunder as well. And you notice the dark clouds down to your south. These will likely move in. This whole boundary will eventually start to shift to the north. You can see how it extends back into areas south of Chicago, back into central Illinois. This whole boundary, when we talk about boundaries, it's literally wind butting up against each other. This boundary will start to shift off towards the north and will likely bring showers and thunderstorms into Lake Porter and LaPorte counties as we go throughout the evening. But until then, it's going to be a slow go. We've got heavy rain that will continue to fall. Thankfully, it's in areas that didn't see a ton of rain last night, albeit Newton and Jasper counties. Off towards the north, we saw some of our heaviest totals in Lake County. Radar estimated 1 to up to 4 inches of rain fell in the last 24 hours. So we've had some heavier spots of rain. But as thunderstorms go in the summertime, that rain never falls evenly. So I know a lot of you have seen the heavy rain. Some of you are like, what are you talking about? It didn't rain here. Well, that's how it goes in the summertime, and that's what we're seeing right now. In terms of the overall setup, this is kind of the bigger picture look at what we've got coming together here. A pretty decent line extending from right here in Newton and Jasper County, but that extends all the way back through Illinois, and you can see it trails all the way into Kansas. This activity down in Kansas and Missouri will start to sink down to the south on an outflow boundary. Meanwhile, it's this northern part we're going to keep an eye on. So in terms of future radar this evening, you're going to want to watch the Illinois activity. Don't keep an eye on the stuff way down southwest of that. It's really the Illinois stuff that we'll watch as that comes in here. I do see a heavy rainfall and perhaps flood threat setting up tonight. If we continue to get this rain over the same areas over and over, which would happen to be kind of funneled right on the region, we could end up seeing some flooding problems tonight. Likely starting, midnight, maybe 11 midnight or so, if this rain continues to kind of channel in our area, which it seems to look like right now. And again, this is what we've been calling for in our forecasts over the course of the whole entire week. We've been talking about that weekend flood threat. So we had the rain last night. It kind of saturated the ground. I know we could use more in many spots, but I'm afraid that we're going to get quite a bit tonight with these showers and thunderstorms kind of training over the same area as of right now. In terms of what happens from here, what's the weekend look like? We'll talk about that before we go back to the radars. Here's the model I trust best with this pattern. Usually the models don't really handle this pattern well at all. So what we're going to look at is, does it have a good handle on what's happening now? Well, as we go through time, this is what it says is happening right now. And I think it's got a pretty good handle. It picks up on some of those storms coming into the area. You got the storms of the west, storms down in Kansas. So that's why I trust this. So here's where we go forward. You can see as we go through time, we bring showers and storms through the region overnight. It doesn't have them training as much. It has them pushing north pretty quickly. So hopefully that can happen. But you can see tomorrow, the axis of all this rain starts to get shoved to the north a little bit. So that will actually relieve our flood threat just ever so slightly and kind of push it up into Wisconsin and north central Illinois. And you can see how we are towing the line with these showers and thunderstorms that develop tomorrow. And look how it just stays in a line. We're now into Sunday and we're now into Monday. And that same axis of rain and storms looks to weaken a little bit. It's not quite as pronounced, but we still have the storm threat all the way through Monday. And that's really going to hold through next week as it looks right now. So in terms of weekend rainfall chances, if you believe this model, which I do, you probably never should put too much trust in a model, but it does look like we get a break tomorrow, especially later in the day, but we'll likely be watching some perhaps strong to severe storms just off to our west. Again, if these go a little bit further south and east, we've got big storms around tomorrow. So do not discount the thunderstorm threat or the rain threat tomorrow afternoon. But there is some indication on the modeling that perhaps we get some dry hours and maybe we can squeak out a dry afternoon and evening if these storms stay just north and west of us. And eventually that whole boundary kind of sinks south, and we still have a storm chance Sunday into Monday as we go forward. So that's kind of the outlook for the weekend. But until then, we've got to get through tonight and some of these stronger storms that will likely go severe at some point this evening. Threats with these, you see it scrolling there at the bottom of the screen, are going to be hail. High winds are a possibility. I'm not really 100% sold on the high wind threat. We may have pockets of high winds, but I think it's more of a hail threat as of right now. And also heavy rain. We're going to see some pretty decent lightning with this. We're already seeing an uptick in the activity near Rensselaer right now. And then again, as I mentioned at the top of this broadcast, there is a possibility that we have a weak tornado or two out of these, something we definitely need to keep an eye on. No big, strong tornadoes that are expected. The atmosphere is not profiled that way. But again, we could get some weak tornadoes because there is some shear. Wind at the surface is one direction. As you get up in the cloud, it turns just a little bit out of the west, and that helps that cloud to rotate, which can translate down to the surface. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. So this will eventually push up into areas of Southern Lake and Porter counties over the next half hour or so. You could see a pretty good indication that it's already approaching the line there. And then back towards the west, this activity back in Illinois will likely really start to push things up in the Lake, Porter, LaPorte, and Stark counties on the go forward. But until then, it's a Newton and Jasper County issue right now. We've got two pretty strong thunderstorms. There's not a lot of lightning with these, but keep in mind, it's not just the lightning. It's the atmospheric profile and the fact we could have some spin up. So that's what we're dealing with. All right. Let's bring in your comments. I'm going to go back through these here. Again, Jack kicked us off saying it's storming in Rensselaer. Absolutely. That's exactly where we want to start it now. And hi, Ann. Hi, Chris. Getting a couple shares there. Thanks, Elijah, for that. Erica says, thanks for covering this, Matt. Mike Kaplan totally ignoring the watch about 30 minutes ago. Oh, Mike. Yeah, he'll get on it. Mike does some good coverage for sure. I've followed a lot of his work. Obviously, he's busy. He's got a lot going on, and that's why we have region weathers, because Chicago stations, Chicago folks aren't always Northwest Indiana centric, are they? And that's what we are. We don't cover Chicago at all. We cover Northwest Indiana because it literally we have our own microclimate here, right? Jill says hi. Should I pack up and sleep in the basement now or wait till alert, says Faith. Faith always asking me that. Faith, you'll be okay. Again, it's very small tornado threat with us this evening. And again, I'm on it. I'm literally going to be watching this. I'll pass along any updates as needed. We'll go back to live if we have to. If it's not something we need to go live for, I'll just push an update out. But just make sure you get alerts on Facebook when we post. That's really the one thing that I am not happy about. And the reason why I created regionweather.com, the actual website, is because we can post on there whenever we need to, and you can sign up for alerts with that and get it. Whereas with Facebook, a lot of people are saying, when I put out a warning, they're seeing it 2 days later and they're saying, why am I just now seeing this? Because there's algorithms and stuff like that. So I'd rather take the algorithm out so you can get your information. So just make sure you hit follow, you sign up for alerts. That way, if we post an update on here, whether it be a tornado warning or whatever it is, that you get it on your phone, you see that we posted that, and then you can open it up. That's the whole reason for that. All right, Sue says, hi, how's Valpo looking for the evening? Great question, Eric. I think you get into some rain later on. It's going to hold off for a while, though. So if you've got plans, maybe next hour and a half, I think this activity will stay just down to your south. Hour and a half might be pushing it, but you can see some of this activity as it's going to work just southeast of you as it looks right now. But you'll probably get into the cell back towards Kankakee County and Iroquois County down to the south. We'll have to keep an eye on those. Luann, you're welcome. Stay safe through all this. Let's see. I lost the comments. I just went back. Okay. Darren says, where's this new space you've been broadcasting from? Darren, I'm at work right now. Yeah, I'm back at the studio again. I'm no longer in my basement. So we're in a studio. I'm at my workspace right now. I've got a nice little setup with microphone and all that. So we can certainly provide those weather updates as needed from a much more professional looking place than my basement. Although that worked out for 14 months. We did a lot of TV in that basement. It was great. Sherry asks about Whiting. Sherry, you got a lot of heavy rain last night. You'll probably be one of the last to get some of the rain here this evening as this whole thing kind of shifts off towards the north. But I do think we get showers and thunderstorms lined up over you as well. Kevin always asks the tough questions. I do not think so, Kevin. I don't think he'll start week one. I'm an Ohio State alumni, so very familiar with Justin Fields. And I'll tell you, his talent level's there, but man, there were inconsistencies. So I'm just warning you as Bears fans, keep an eye on him. He's got a great talent, but inconsistent, at least for us. Felicia asks, are we getting rain in Kokomo, Indiana? Yes, I think this is going to set up over Kokomo as well. All this is west of you now, but eventually this whole entire boundary will push in as we get into the evening. Stephanie, thanks for that update. Getting dark in Roselawn right now. Bringing Christine's tired of bringing the plant baskets in. Christine, I get it, but I mean, it's summertime. It does this, right? Faith says Sunday was fun. Yeah, Faith, I know Sunday was a mess, right? And I told some of you, a lot of you had sent messages over the last couple of days and on Sunday as well. I was literally driving my family on a road trip and I wanted to update so bad, but I couldn't. And I told myself we were going to take a week off no matter what. I hadn't taken a week off from Region Weather in 5 years. So we took a week off and I told myself that I still pushed out some updates when I could, but yeah, it was certainly interesting. That ended up, Faith, being an EF0 tornado. It was straight line wind damage that became EF0 tornado damage. So not huge, right? Not a real powerful tornado, but it still did some damage, and it was certainly scary on radar as we went about the evening. Iris, you're absolutely welcome. Faith, you as well. Adriana says, I'm in Hammond, always looking to see what local weather will do during the storm season. It's always fascinating. Sometimes storms, Adriana, come in and they just kind of fizzle out. We call that the Northwest Indiana split that they tend to do. Other times, like the storms we have now, these are the ones we need to keep more of an eye on because they don't do the split. These tend to strengthen over us with that Gulf of Mexico push of air. So we need to keep an eye out for these storms this evening. Rebecca, you're absolutely welcome. Darren, you're welcome as well. Joshua asking about Valparaiso, South Haven. We covered a little bit earlier, Joshua. If you missed it, though, I do think these storms end up pushing up into your region as well. So maybe another hour or so before they move in, but something to keep an eye on for sure. I'm just checking the velocity on these. I'm not seeing any rotation. It's very broad, but there's nothing that I would even note or even tell you at this point that's really of concern. The only thing I would be watching is the hail threat out of that Rensselaer storm right now that's moving to eventually move into Stark County, but that's got some hail with it. There's some pockets of some larger hail for sure. Can it hail when it's raining already? Asked Jack. Jack, that's a good question. Yeah, they mix. They mix for sure. Hail is formed a little bit differently than rain, and they're separate entities. So yeah, you can get real heavy rain mixed with hail for sure. Stephanie agrees. Rob's watching the dark clouds south of Couts move in, probably be here soon. You're absolutely right. Probably another 15, 20 minutes for you, maybe a little bit longer, depending on where that cell ends up going. And Kim, you called it. And that's one of the reasons why we have a severe thunderstorm watch is because things cleared out. They quieted down, like we mentioned this morning, and that provided the heating, which provides more lift in the atmosphere. If we don't get the sun, if we don't get that true heating, there's not a lot of lift going on. There's not a lot of air going up if you can't get it warm enough to lift. And so that's why we say when the sun's out on severe weather days, it's always something that's not good, right? Because it provides more heating and reason for these thunderstorms to lift up for sure. Oh boy, Rhonda was on the third floor in that tornado warning. Yeah, that was definitely got dicey, and it was late at night. I know most people were sleeping, so you probably got the alert on your phone. You're groggy looking at the radar, so certainly a rough go of it as we got into Sunday night. Joshua, you're welcome. Ben says, what's the timeline for them moving through? Ben, it depends on where you are in the region. Every backyard's different, right? You're all in different locations. But right now, Newton, Jasper counties are getting it. This whole boundary is going to push north over the next probably hour to hour and a half. We'll see these start creeping into Lake, Porter, LaPorte counties from south to north. And I think overnight we get all the activity. Here, I'll pull up the map for you. I think overnight we get some of this activity back towards the west. So I am a little bit concerned about a flood threat tonight, which we've been highlighting all week. But I think tonight's the night that I would say it could happen because you see the storms here in Northwest Indiana, they're starting to develop in kind of a line all the way back towards the west. So we'll likely get some heavy rain for a while, and then we'll probably settle into just a general moderate to at times heavy rainfall as this activity back in Missouri comes in. So we could get some really heavy rainfall totals tonight as this continues to come together. So a little bit worried about that. For sure. Hopefully that's not the case. Kristen, a little cool front in Lake Village. Yeah. So what you just had in Lake Village, as these storms are moving through was probably the outflow boundary. You're right in here. So what happens is in these thunderstorms, you get the heavy rain that falls that brings cool air from up above down to the surface. That cool air can't go into the ground, so it comes out. So that's why you get that gust of wind and you get the cooler temperatures. That's all the rain cooled air coming outwards from the thunderstorm. So kind of interesting. Darren asked, do these star things on Facebook benefit you? Darren, I have no idea what those things are. I know they're pushing it for content creators. You don't, please don't, you don't have to do any stuff like that. I think Facebook takes half the money anyway, so it's really not worth it. I don't do this for that. Obviously, I've gone in the past over why we have region weather, right? Because I sat there as the chief meteorologist in Maryville. Gosh, how long ago was that now? It was a long time ago. I don't want to date myself, but I sat there and I said, we are literally the only people that are covering Northwest Indiana weather. Chicago didn't do it, and we have lake effect snow, you get tornado warnings, and Chicago barely covers Northwest Indiana. So that's why we created this page. That's why we created Region Weather. And I've been doing it since. And I do it for my friends and family that are still there. And obviously, this has become a huge hobby of mine. So I appreciate the question. I do not feel led to do anything like that. Caitlin's living the dream this evening. She's in Wheatfield watching the clouds move through. Caitlin, that sounds wonderful. It really does. I hope you have a cup of something good to drink with you as well. John asks a good question. Where do we seek refuge if there's a flood and a tornado warning? Well, hopefully in your basement, John. That's a good question. That's why waterproofing is very important in basements for sure, because that's where you want to be, lowest floor, right? If it's really bad and obviously you're flood prone and all that stuff, I don't know what to tell you on that, buddy. I hope that's not the case. And usually when we have flooding, it's rained so much that the atmosphere doesn't have a lot of energy left. So usually by the time you have a flood warning, the severe threat of the tornado threat's pretty much over because you would have already gotten a lot of the thunderstorm activity. So that's the good news. I think that's why it's created that way. So let's see. Kevin asking more about the Bears. Do I think the Bears are a playoff team? Kevin, again, I stick to weather, not sports. I do have a good sports background. I do not think they are this year. I think you're a couple of years out. I could ask my sports department back there. I don't know how they'd feel about that. How about Hobart for any storms? Cheryl, we've got storms that'll move in. You probably, if you look south, you're probably seeing some lightning flashes. You can see the big towering clouds moving in. Those are eventually coming your way, but I don't think you're going to get the two storms that are in Newton and Jasper County now. I think you'll have to wait further off towards the west for storms in central Illinois. So it'll take its time. Boundaries like this, it's slowly coming north, so we'll slowly see those storms head north. Jason hoping for storms in Cedar Lake. We haven't had really good thunderstorms this year, and I don't think these are going to be those good thunderstorms that we've been waiting for with lots of lightning and wind. These are just kind of squirrely storms that we have to keep an eye on because there is a chance of some rotation with these. Stephanie says, I know Lafayette is south of us, but I heard there's a tornado on the ground around that area. Tornado chances are low with our storms. You think they're right? I do think tornado chances are low with our storms, Stephanie, but there is a chance. We've seen funnel clouds with these off towards the west, and it's all low-level rotation. So these aren't storms that are going to produce these huge, robust tornadoes. These are going to be small spin-up tornadoes if we get them at all. Otherwise, it's just going to be a storm threat. And there is a big storm. This is over down towards, it's east of Lafayette right now. And this is getting towards, I think we had a viewer on here from Kokomo or was asking questions about this, and I was talking about those storms that'll be moving in. Let me switch radar sources here. And there is a tornado warning indeed for a storm near that area. It's near Flora, Carrollton, Burlington. This is all to the west of Lafayette, to the east of Lafayette and to the west of Kokomo. And it does look like it'll miss Kokomo. It's heading up towards the Grissom Air Force Base. Looking at the radar signature of that storm, I can actually go down into that area. I think it's this storm right here. Looking at the radar signature of that storm, it's not a real pronounced tornadic signature right now. There's a lot of rotation, and if they had one reported, I don't have my chat pulled up, so I can't tell that, but there may have been one on the ground with that. But as of right now, it doesn't look like it's a big deal, at least with the latest radar scan. So we'll see where that goes for them. But that storm's down by there. But I'll tell you, we have the chance with our own local storms that we could see those small spin-ups like we've been talking about for sure. Rachel first asked about Portage. I can answer both of these. I've got a lot of town questions coming in. St. John, Julie's just joining. Vicky joining for Cedar Lake. Kevin, I know you do, buddy. I like your humor for sure. Okay, so a lot of people just tuning in asking about their town. I totally get that. So let's go back to the beginning. We've got storms that have developed. We've got a severe thunderstorm watch out until 11. These storms are developing along a boundary that's pushing north. So I think everyone gets in on the rain tonight. I think wherever this heaviest rain sets up, we're going to have a flood threat because there are more of these off towards the west. Looking at the big picture, you can see all the way back into Illinois, we've got storms that continue to develop. These are heavy rainfall producers. First couple hours, we're going to have to watch. There's a small tornado threat with these. There's a hail threat and a heavy rain threat. I think that's really going to take over once we get later in the night. But I think this whole entire boundary, this whole line that you see developing, will shift slowly to the north tonight. And I do mean slowly. So if you're in the northern tier of counties, Lake, Port, or LaPorte counties, it'll start in the southern end of your county, and we'll see how far north it can get tonight. Newton and Jasper County, you're in the line of fire right now. You'll likely stay there for a while until this pushes north. And we'll see, because these thunderstorms will likely expand too. So we'll have heavier rain with lighter rain with them. And I just think it's going to be a rainy evening for everybody. So depending on where you are, it really doesn't matter in my book. I think everyone's got a pretty equal shot at some rain tonight, okay? And I'm seeing the same questions from Pamela, from Ann as well. So everyone, equal shot at rain tonight. The real concern and the reason why I really want to talk to you about this is because there is a small tornado threat tonight. There's not always, but we've had some squirrely cells back in Illinois that have produced some funnel clouds. We have a tornado warning down here just to the west of Kokomo right now. So we're going to keep an eye on these cells, and I'm going to be watching them like a hawk this evening, and I'll push out updates as needed throughout the rest of the evening, okay? So that's what we're dealing with now. So Newton, Jasper counties, seeing some heavier rain. We do have some pockets of hail. I don't see any rotation worth talking about as of right now. That's the good news, but that could change as on the go forward. Let me give one more scan before I let you guys go for a little bit. Yeah, I don't see anything weird right now. There's a little bit of rotation with these storms, but they rotate all the time. And I don't see, again, anything that I would call out as being something we need to talk about as of right now. Okay. All right. So we thank you for joining us. I'll be back later if needed. I'll push out an update if that's all that needs to be done. Make sure you follow us and have the alerts when we post that you get an alert. That way you're not behind and checking this out on Sunday. Okay. So that's kind of where we'll go from there. All right. Thank you for joining us, guys. Try to enjoy your Friday evening. Again, not a huge severe weather event. I'm more worried about the flooding than I am tornadoes this evening. And we'll shoot another update later to keep you guys ahead of all this activity. All right.